We were on a break in the second day of questioning of the undercover police officer Jason Bishop, who was deployed in the late 90s, early 2000s into Reclaim the Streets and Disarm Dicey. He also reported on Earth First, Wombles, and Campaign Against the Arms Trade. I'm joined by Dawn, who's been listening to what he's had to say. A lot of his questioning now has been about the Disarm Dicey of 2001, 2003, numerous anti-arms trade campaigns. We've just been heard about the Stop Spearhead campaign. What have you made of what he's had to say?
Okay, it's very relevant to me because there's been some red plans to chuck red paint about.
He was adamant it was white paint.
Yeah. Well, I would imagine it's red because I think that's a great idea.
Yeah.
And what struck me about it was I'm unaware when he was grilled about his involvement in the planning and the term avant provocateur came up, and I was thinking, well, does that mean at a certain to past a certain point, is there an undercover police officer guilty of what I understand as entrapment?
Yeah.
And I imagine that's the case. And then people in the room started to say, well, there's so many crimes that are being uncovered during this process.
Yes.
That it gave me the chills a bit.
Yeah, I mean, so he's been quite candid about the fact that he was involved in the gluing of locks, the throwing of paint. In fact, there's been numerous crimes that he's been admitting to. When we were earlier on, we were talking about the fact that he was given the green light, the authorization to go and do crop trashing with the GM crops. And he said that was because the CPS had decided not to charge the Greenpeace activists for doing some crop trashing. And that appears to be the level to which the SDS would approve criminal activity by their officers. It's unclear whether the CPS would not be charging people for smearing red paint and gluing locks of arms trade offices, but I don't know. It's difficult to know. I mean, sorry. He's given the impression that this was perfectly okay, that there was no concern about the fact that he was doing this sort of criminality.
Yeah, and it, like I say, it gives me the creeps. And also in that room, in the inquiry room, we can't see anyone.
No.
I was expecting to actually be in a hearing, and there's just screens to read the proceedings. So I wanted to ask you about that. Do you ever get to see these people?
Yes, I mean, I would say that this is special measures. Normally, we are able to see the witness. The witness appears in person. In the case of Jason Bishop, for reasons that have not been explained to us, he has a level of anonymity, which means that not only do we not know his real name, Jason Bishop is the cover name. We don't get to see him. Often we're allowed to see them in the room, but people will only get the audio broadcast. But in this case, he's joining via a video link, and the barrier is up. There's the room we're in is often double the size. There's a barrier been put in place, the shutters put across, so we don't even get to see the screen. I don't know why the inquiry does this. I think it would be perfectly possible for them to turn the screen around so that only the chair could see the screen of his face. It would make the proceedings a lot easier to follow. We don't get to see any, or the cameras could be pointed at other things. Those who are following at home on YouTube, they don't get to see the documents as we have presented with them. They just get a thing saying audio only with just the sound of it. It is very frustrating. It's very difficult to follow, particularly because the inquiry has been having a lot of technical difficulties lately. People watching these will know that I've been having technical difficulties with the broadcast because of the internet. I don't know if it's for the same reason, but there's been a number of times where his answers haven't been legible, where he claims he can't hear the question. I feel like some of these have been quite convenient for him, but I also do believe that the technical problems do exist. It makes for this is one of the many layers of lack of transparency, should we say, in the whole inquiry process.
I don't know whether to bring it up to date with things I'm up to, but maybe in a sec we will. But I'm also just wanted to reinforce it's so hard to follow.
Yes.
And yet it's so important.
Yes.
And I want to know, it makes me want to know a bit more about where does this inquiry lead after all the tranches? Where do the people take it?
I mean, I think that's by design. It's not a mistake. It's not an unfortunate byproduct. I think that the inquiry is doing its very best to be as secretive as possible. We know that there are multiple layers of redaction and censor that are gone through before we get to see anything in this process. Of course, this is only one part of the inquiry, the closed part of the inquiry. We've had no, well, that's not true. There is a closed part we are aware of, but there is also a secret part, which, as far as we know, maybe more hearings, maybe more witnesses, maybe much bigger than the public element of the inquiry. In terms of where it goes, I would say absolutely fucking nowhere, mate. Goes absolutely fucking nowhere. Essentially, as far as I'm concerned, this process is about the journey, not the destination. The destination will be a final report. This will give recommendations. It will talk about training, about the way in which the state can more effectively do undercover deployments without getting into what it sees as the moral hazards around sexual dispute, sexual abuse, and the use of dead children's identities and so forth. I would not expect anything whatsoever from taking this forward. I think what we can get out of this process is within the journey. It's within finding out that information, about filling in the gaps in our own lives that have been disrupted, about seeing what it is that the state is interested in when it comes to protest, why it is they want to disrupt us, what they see as the weak points in our movements, the way in which the information that they seek to gather, which never changes, though the tactics may change, what they're after never changes. They want to know about people. They want to know about the connections within people. They want to know what those people may have gone to do. I think that the end goal of so much of the undercover deployments was about vetting, blacklisting. Preventing people who were involved in any form of progressive radical politics from ever getting into a position of influence within society, whether that's the media, the civil service, or anything else. And I think really with understanding that, we've given some tools, some ability to protect our movements. I think particularly when it comes to disruption, something which we saw a little, there was some questions just then for Jason Bishop about the way in which an action that was due to take place against an arms manufacturer transporting bombs to Fairford, that action had not happened, and we saw a report that said that Detective Sergeant Bernard Greene said that this was a sign of what a great deployment that Jason Bishop had, that he had been able to disrupt this action. He played that down very, very quickly, very, very firmly. No, he didn't have any reason to disrupt it. It had been abandoned without him. That's because I think it's very clear that a huge part of what the undercover police did was disruption. They play that down because that suggests a level of agent provocateur activity and anti-democratic sort of organizing that they were doing. But I think it's very clear that that was a huge part of their role. And identifying the ways in which they disrupted groups, we see it so much in the reports. We've seen in his reports about the trying to drive a wedge, the divisions within people within groups. We've heard right from the very start of the existence of the unit, of them identifying disagreements and blowing up personal disagreements into political ones, setting purity tests, putting activists against each other within groups, splitting groups apart, destabilizing, undermining, destroying groups.
So creepy.
It is incredibly creepy. I mean, this whole process is incredibly creepy.
And it's great if not great, it's fascinating to witness the deep state at work. It exists. And then I suppose today, what I'd take, because I might come back, but
Please do.
What my takeaway is today is that if campaigns can observe good community organizing facilitation strategies to combat some of that disruption and false conflict that's being planted, that's great. But also the more open in terms of confrontation, the powers that be, and announcing openly what the plans are, which is recently the Defend Our Juries ACE card, then the better, because it makes, jackasses like this redundant, really.
I mean, I would say, I'd agree with that. I mean, I would say that, a huge number of the groups who got infiltrated also did that. It didn't protect them from the deployment of undercover officers, though it may have protected the actions they took from being disrupted. It didn't stop the state from sending undercover officers into the lives of the campaigners involved in those groups and seriously disrupting their lives. And I think it's those dirty tricks that the thing which lingers, the thing which kind of harms so many of our lives is those dirty tricks of the undercover officers in infiltrating people's lives, whether that's sexual or other things that they did to people.
And the other chilling factor is that, I've heard a few different times people, that you've spoken to in these videos, talking about it's still going on.
Almost undoubtedly. I mean, I think it's likely to have changed quite significantly in terms of the way that it's operated. I mean, we only have to look at the legislation that the government has passed, the Covert Human Intelligence Sources (brackets Criminal Conduct Act) of 2022, which gave the right of agents of the state to commit a very wide range of crimes, including rape, murder, torture, in pursuit of the state's goals for them. I mean, that shows that this sort of activity still goes on. I'm sure I get the impression, I mean, we live in an era of neoliberal policing, so it seems very likely that these could well be contractors as professional infiltrators rather than police officers. Certainly that would give the state a certain level of ability to wash their hands of what those people get up to.
Gig economy.
The gig economy also, very much, and also gives the ability for those people really are who they say they are. It's just that they're motivated by different reasons to what they say. Also, of course, I mean, it's very telling. I mean, we've just heard from Jason Bishop the way that he was working with people to do hacking into the booking software that the Defence Systems Exhibition International Arms Fair were using for delegates. It's the beginning of seeing sort of electronic activity, sort of about the electronic blockade of Spearhead. And I think that this electronic surveillance is just an enormous growth area. In the 25 years since what we're looking at today, things have come on a huge amount in that. I think people should be aware that, we're not talking about the algorithm here. We're talking about, real life police officers sitting at terminals using the vast array of police resources, of cameras, phones, automatic number plate recognition, the huge swathe of things that exist in order to monitor people in real time, not monitoring them on the internet, monitoring them in the world using electronic surveillance.
Well, okay, you got to fight for your right to party. I'll have to do it.
I mean, I think it's at the end of the day, it's one of those things where they can cut the flowers, but they can't stop the spring, comrade. I mean, there are these things are sent to try us. If they didn't fear us, they wouldn't do these things. They come at us because we are strong.
Bang on.
Yeah. Is there anything this is only a short break. We will be going back in for.
I'll be back next week. There's loads I can't say and loads I want to say, and I probably will soon.
Yeah. There's the next session of the hearing will be enclosed. We'll be able to be in it, but I won't be able to report on it. I think they might have already restarted, judging by everybody's left the room. So we'll head back in now. Then there will be an open session after that, which I will report on. Thanks for joining us. Bye for now.